Good morning, crime community. I'm here to read out another chapter of Edgar Allan Poe from Tales of Mystery and Imagination with illustrations by Harry Clark. I'm in a chapter called MS Fountain in a Bottle, Found in a Bottle. I read part of it yesterday. I'm going to try to finish reading it today. I don't really know where I left off, so excuse me if I read over a little bit of what I read yesterday. And then we're going to talk about a general thesis and analysis of what this is about. So I'll try to see where I picked up yesterday, because I'm not really sure. He at length went on deck, and I saw him no more. A feeling for which I have no name has taken possession of my soul, a sensation which will admit of no analysis, for which the lessons are bygone, sometimes are inadequate, and for which I fear futurity itself will offer me no key. To my mind, constituted like my own, the latter consideration is an evil. I shall never, I know what I shall never be satisfied with regard to the nature of my conceptions, yet it is not wonderful that these conceptions are indefinite, since they have their origin and source so utterly novel. A new sense, a new identity is added to my soul. It is long since I first trod the deck of this terrible ship, and the rays are my destiny are, I think, gathering to a focus. Incomprehensible men, wrapped up in meditations of a kind which I cannot divine, they pass me by unnoticed. Concealment is utter folly on my part, for the people will not see. It is but just now that I passed directly before the eyes of the mate. It was no long while ago before I ventured into the captain's own private cabin and took hence the materials for which I write, and had written. I shall from time to time continue this journal. It is true that I may not find an opportunity of transmitting it to the world, but I will not fail to make the endeavor. At the last moment, I will enclose the MS in a bottle and cast it within the sea. An incident has occurred which has given me new room for meditation. Are such things the operation of ungoverned chance? I had ventured upon deck and thrown myself down without attracting my notice upon a pile of rattling stuff and old sails in the bottom of the vale of the yawl. While musing upon the singularity of my fate, I unwittingly daubed with the tar brush the edges of the neatly folded studding sail which lay near me on a barrel. The struggling sail is now bent upon the ship, and the thoughtless touches of the brush were swept out into the word discovery. I have made my observations lately upon the structure of the vessel. Although well armed, she is not, I think, a ship of war. Her rigging, built, and general equipment all negative a supposition of this kind. What she is not, I can easily perceive. What she is, I fear it is impossible to say. I know now how it is, but in scrutinizing her strange model and singularity cast of spars, her huge size and overgrown suits of canvas, her severely simple bow and antiquated stern, there will occasionally flash across my mind a sensation of similar things. There was always mixed up with such inconsistent shadows of recollection and unaccountable memory of old foreign chronicles and goals long ago. I have been looking at the timbers of the ship. She is built of a material in which I am a stranger. There is a particular character about wood which strikes me as rendering it unfit for the purpose to which has been applied. I mean, its extreme porousness, considered and independently of the warm Eton condition, which is a consequence of navigation in these seas, and apart from the rottenness attended upon age, it will appear perhaps an observation somewhat over curious, but this would have ever characteristic of Spanish oak. If Spanish oak was distended by any unnatural means, in reading the above sentence, a curious pathogen of an old weather-beaten Dutch navigator comes full upon my recollection. It is sure he was wont to say, but any doubt was entered of his veracity, as sure as there is a sea where the ship itself will grow in bulk like the living body of the seaman. About an hour I made bold to trust myself among a group of the crew. They paid me no matter of attention, although I stood in the very midst of them at all, seemingly utterly unconscious of my pretensions, like the one I had at first seen in the hold. They had all bore about them the mark of the hoary old age. The knees trembled with infirmity, their shoulders were bent double with decrepitude, and their shriveled skin rattled in the wind. Their voices were low, tremulous, and broken. Their eyes glistened with the radum of years, and their gray hairs streamed terribly in the tempest. Around them, in every part of the deck, lay scattered mathematical instruments of the most quaint and obsolete construction. I mentioned some time ago the bending of the struddling sail. From that period, the ship has been thrown dead off the wind, has consumed for a terrific course due south, that every rag of canvas packed upon her, from her truck to her lower studding sailing booms, and the strolling every moment her top gallant yard arms into the most appalling hell of water, which it can enter into the mind of man to imagine. I have just left the deck, where I found it impossible to maintain a footing, although the crew seemed to experience little inconvenience. It appears to me a miracle of miracles that our enormous bulk was not swallowed upon at once and forever, and we are surely doomed to have hover continually upon the brick of eternity without taking a final plunge into the abyss. From billows of 1,000 times more stupendous than any I have ever seen, we glide away with the facility of the arrowy seagull, and the colossal waters near the heads above us like demons of the deep, but like demons confined to simple threads and forbidden to destroy. I am led to attribute these frequent escapes to the only natural cause which can account for such effect. I must suppose the ship to be within the influence of some strong current or impetuous undertow. I have seen the captain face to face and in his own captain, but as I expected, he paid me no attention. Although he has his appearance, there is, to a casualty observer, nothing which might beseech him more or less than man, still a feeling of irrepressible reverence, and the awe mingled with the sensation of wonder with which I regarded him. In structure, he is nearly my own height, that is, about 5 feet 8 inches. He is as a well knit and compact frame of body, neither robust or remarkable otherwise, but it is singularly of the impression which reigns upon the face. It is the intense and wonderful, the thrilling evidence of old age, so utter, so extreme, which excites within my spirit a sense of sentiment ineffable. For forward, although little winkled, seem to bear upon it the stamp of a myriad of years. His gray hairs are recorded of the past, and his grayer eyes are symbols of the future. The cabin floor that's thickly strewn his strange iron-clasped folios and moldered instruments of science and obsolete, long-forgotten charts. His head was bowed down upon his hands, and he pored with a fiery, unquiet eye over a paper which I took to be a commission, and which events bore the signature of a monarch. He muttered to himself, and did the first seaman whom I saw in the bold, some low, peevish, stylables for a foreign tongue, and although the speaker was close at my elbow, his voice seemed to reach my ears from the distance of a mile. The ship and all of it are imbued with the spirit of eld. The crew glide to and fro like the ghost of buried centuries. Their eyes have a eager and uneasy meaning, and then their figures fall athwart my path to the wild glare of the battle lanterns. I feel I have never felt before, although I have been all my life a dealer in antiquities and have imbibed the shallows of fallen columns at Baalbek and Tadmor and Persepolis until my very soul has become a ruin, and I look around me and I feel ashamed of my former apprehensions. If I tremble at the blast which was hitherto attended us, and I shall not stand aghast at a warring of wind and sea, to convey the idea of which the words tornado and simoon are trivial and ineffective, all in the immediate vicinity of the ship as the blackness of eternal night and a chaos of formless water. But about a league in each side of us may be seen indistinctly and at intervals stupendous ramparts of ice towering away into the desolate sky and looking like the walls of the universe. As I imagine the ship proves to be in a current, in that appellation can properly be given to a tide which, howling and shrieking by the white ice, thunders on to the southward with a velocity like the headlong dashing of a cataract. To conceive the horror of my sensation is, I presume, utterly impossible, yet a curiosity to penetrate the mysteries of these awful regions predominates even over my despair, and will reconcile me to the most hideous aspect of death. It is evident that we are hurrying onward to some exciting knowledge, some never to be imparted secret, whose attainment is destruction. Perhaps the current leads us to the southern pole itself. It must be confessed that the superstition, apparently so wild, has every probability in its favor. The crew pace the deck with unquiet and tumultuous step, and there is upon their countenance an expression more than the eagerness of hope than the apathy of despair. In the meantime, the wind is still on our poop, and as we carry a crowd of canvas, the ship is at times lifted bodily from out of the sea, the horrors from upon horror, the ice opens suddenly to the right and to the left, and we are whirling dizzily in immense concentric circles round and round the borders of a gigantic atmosphere. The summit of those walls is lost and the darkness in the distance, but this little time will be left me to ponder upon my destiny. The circles rapidly grow small. We are plunging madly within the grasp of the whirlpool amid a roaring and bellowing and thundering of ocean and of tempest, and the ship is quivering and of God and going down. Note, MS Found in the Bottle was originally published in 1831, and it was not until many years afterward that I believed acquainted with the maps of Mercator and in the ocean of represented as rushing for 4 miles into the northern polar gulf to be absorbed into the bowels of the earth, the pole itself being represented by the black rock towering to the prodigious height. That's the end of Mrs. Found in the Bottle. The next story is Bernice. I need to let it get a little drink of water real quick. Excuse me. Now I want to read out the AI literary analysis about MS found in the bottle. The central thesis or main message, Edgar Allan Poe's MS found in a bottle, is that knowledge and realism are ultimately insufficient to comprehend the true extent of the universe and the overwhelming, terrifying forces of nature and fate. Interconnected themes that support this thesis. First, footnote, the limits of the human exploitation. The narrator, initially a rational man who prides himself on realism, is driven by a restless spirit into the unexplored, nightmarish researches to the South Pole. Nightmarish researchers to the South Pole, his sensitive understanding and composure are systematically dismantled as he encounters phenomenon that defy logical explanation. The sublime and the existential dread. The horror of the story comes from this depiction of the physical world beyond the limits of human experience, as the narrator is pulled into a gigantic maelstrom. He faces an existential dread of human life into the face of the universe, powerful and unknown forces. Isolation and the incommunicable experience. It's what all these writers are writing about. Poe and Shelley. It's all about the isolation program that continues this day with the MK Ultra program. Isolation and the inconceivable experience. The narrator is completely isolated, first from his homeland and family, and then from the rest of humanity abroad. This is what Mary Shelley talks about too. See, we're going to be talking about her pretty soon. That's her original version from 1818. It's now revised. So anyway, where was I? The narrator, so completely isolated, first from his homeland and family, and then from the rest of humanity abroad, a ghastly ancient ship, his manuscript cast into the sea in a bottle, in his desperate attempt to communicate an experience that is so far removed from normal reality that he doubts anyone will believe him. Reality that he doubts anyone will believe him, emphasizing the isolation of a person who has glimpsed the incomprehensible. The quest for forbidden knowledge. The narrator's journey is a quest for knowledge at the cost of his own life. He is both terrified and eager to see what ticks at the heart of the whirlpool, representing a morbid fascination for the forbidden and the ultimate secrets of existence. Even if their attainment means destruction. In essence, Poe argues that human rationality and control are an illusion and that a deeper, more profound and terrifying reality exists beyond the escape of everyday life and scientific understanding. So when science says they know it all, I don't think they really do. This is what Mary Shelley warned about, what Poe is warning about, what they're doing at UCLA with the stem cells changes our DNA forever. But I'm not going to get into that political debate or why they're making chimeras at UC Davis. So if you think there's any like or truth, then we will continue on with reading Poe or Shelley. Frankenstein is the most novel taught in this country in college. So the preface that she's making and her explanations for it, it's nothing really to do with the monster. It's the monster in herself and the monster that she's creating. I haven't read the book, but I know a lot about it. If there's any like and truth and enjoy what I'm saying here at all, please like, share, and subscribe, and have a nice day.